So here's my top 10 games of 2020 with an IP or a license attached to them. Those are the games I play the most, even though they're not only the games that I play. Number 10 is going to be Christmas Story, a major card game. And this one may be a surprise. This is not something I put on the bottom because I had to put something here. This is an actual deduction game that we really enjoyed. I find myself, with COVID-19 going on, I find myself playing a lot more games with the kids and the family than going out with my gamer buddies. So I played a lot of this. Now what you get here is an actual deduction game. I brought it down on the list a little bit because it doesn't fit the IP perfectly, although it does have original artwork instead of movie steals, which will be beneficial to some. But there's actually a nice lightweight family weight type deduction game here. Not social deduction, but deduction. And I find that very interesting. So it's an actual game based on this Christmas IP, and we have a lot of fun with it, and I've played this game a ton. So this is my number 10. My number 9 is Back to the Future Dice Through Time. Now there were 2 Back to the Future games released this year, and I didn't pick both of them. I wanted to pick one. And to be honest, I like Dice Through Time better than the other one. With that said, most people like the other one better, not to my taste. We liked everybody at the table could be Marty and have the DeLorean going through stuff. And you had a ripple of time of leaving the dice there and going through that and the cooperative nature of rolling the dice and that whole Yahtzee mechanic that you have. We liked this one quite a bit. I love playing this 2-player with my wife and going through and solving the little puzzle that you're doing and hoping the dice are going to be on your side. Your mileage may vary. I know a lot of people like the other one that's kind of set in the 1950s. This takes you through all 4 time periods. But Dice Through Time was our number 9 favorite game of 2020. Number 8 is going to be a little controversial pick here because I know in the Dice Tower, Rambo did not get a very good review. In the Rambo, the game does have some issues. The miniatures maybe weren't as promised. The Kickstarter, you really didn't get what the Kickstarter promised, and that's issues aside. But when I judge a game, I judge it on what do I have and how much fun do I have. And this takes the kind of like the, if you remember the game, based on the Kurt Russell starring Big Trouble, and My number 8 is Rambo. This might be a little controversial because I didn't get a very good review on the Dice Tower Network here, but Rambo is a really fun. My number 8 is Rambo. This might be a little controversial because I know in the Dice Tower didn't get a very good review, but I have to say I did like this game. It's not without its troubles, but most of its troubles came from the Kickstarter. The miniatures weren't as good as, like a CMON game, and I think there were some issues with what you were promising the Kickstarter really wasn't delivered, but when I got my package, I tried to review it and try to think about it based on what I got. Now, just like the previous game, Big Trouble in Little China, this takes you through the movie. So the core box is 2 and 3. There's a solo adventure, First Blood, that takes you through the first movie. So in this one, it goes through 2nd and 3rd. It's painstaking. Like, you can almost put the movie on itself in the background, pause it, and you play out a scenario, and then start the movie back. And the rule book actually, the mission book actually has scenes from the movie which you read word for word just about, and you jump into it. So the playability may be an issue, but I tell you what, I have a lot of fun going through this one, and it has that stealth, like Metal Gear Solid, where you don't want to be seen all the time as you're going through, and sometimes you just got to pull that gun out Rambo style and blow a bunch of bad guys down. I like this one. A bunch of different characters, a lot of fun. You explore the map as there's fog of war with these cars that are set on it. Rambo was a surprise to me. I kept out of all the Kickstarter nonsense, and I just enjoyed the game, and it was very, very pleasing to me, and we've had a great time with it. Number 7 was a game I got at Target, no less. It was called Godzilla Tokyo Clash, and most of these games are atrocious. I've played my fair share of Godzilla board games, and most of them are not very good. From Godzilla Stomp to, I know Kong, Skull Island, it was just terrible. But Godzilla Tokyo Clash really puts you into this fighting kaiju, and it really makes you feel like you're doing it. And I've pimped my version out. I've replaced a lot of the cardboard with like micro machines and things, and I have a whole thing where I upgraded all the components and things. I just really wanted this one to look fantastic. The miniature you get with them are like toys. They're not like miniatures. They're not what you expect from like a Fantasy Flight or a CMON game. These are actual toys that you can play with, which was really a step up if you ask me. The game is fun. It's a skirmish game, a battle game, which I normally don't get into, but it just works here. And this is what I've had a lot of fun with. It's mass market. It's relatively cheap at your local big box store. And I gotta say, this one has been a blast. I like playing with anywhere from 2, 3, or 4 players. And every time we're laughing, we're throwing trains at each other, knocking down buildings, and picking each other up and slamming it. Just a lot of fun. Number 6 is WWE Royal Rumble, and this is like a kind of a surprise to me because I don't really like take-that games. I don't like card games in general. You know, I haven't seen wrestling since I was a kid, but there's a lot of nostalgia in this. The Macho Man and Undertaker and some of these guys that we might remember from our past, and a couple of the new guys sprinkled in who I wasn't really familiar with, but of course we know John Cena is from Hollywood, etc. So they're all in this game, and you don't wrestle a match like the previous WWF games that come out. In this one, it's a Royal Rumble, so you just try to survive. It has a kind of a wonky ending where you could lose the entire match as long as you're the last one standing, because every time you get eliminated, you get another guy, right? The Royal Rumble, somebody jumps in. Even though I'm not a big wrestling fan, I mean, I know who some of these guys are. I tell you what, we had a blast. And this is a game I kept by my board gaming table. And if you had, 15, 20 minutes after a game night when some buddies were over, I would definitely pull this out and say, hey, let's just do a match real fast. And we would. And then we found out we would do 2 or 3. And it's a really great, if you're waiting on somebody game or you want to end the night and just have a rumble and have some fun and some laughs. Nobody takes anything seriously. And everybody's leaving with a big smile on their face. This is a really, really fun one. And you don't have to like wrestling to get into it. You don't have to know anything about it. What is more fun than taking a chair over your friend's head in the game and then blocking because Bobby Heenan came out, the brain, right? So laughs galore. This is a really fun little filler game. Number 5 is more in line with my actual taste, which are heavier Euros. Now, I wouldn't say Pan Am is a heavy Euro, but it probably is for this list. In IP-driven games, you don't see a lot of heavy Euros in those kind of games. But Pan Am really brings the stuff, and it pushes the boundaries of what a mass market game can be. I can just imagine somebody buying this game that doesn't really, oh, Pan Am, I remember that from the 50s, or the television show that was out maybe a decade ago, or whatever. And they're like, oh, let's play this game, and just their mind being blown and probably confusing for them, maybe. But if you're watching this video, more than likely it's a simple enough game that you'll be able to play it. Maybe like Ticket to Ride level type of game, and boy, is it a lot of fun. Pan Am was the first like Prospero Hall game that I got. Maybe Horrified was. But then I was just really like, wow, these are some really good games going on. And Pan Am was one I kind of got because it was IP related. I'll take a shot on this. And boy, was I blown away. This is a very solid, light to medium weight Euro game that really brings the goods. It has a little bit of luck in it. You're choosing where you want to go, and it has a bidding mechanic that I saw in a Las Vegas game previously, and it really, really, really works here. If you haven't played Pan Am, or maybe the theme, the IP doesn't drive you to the game, this is what I would say, pause a little bit. Take a look. Take a step back. Check this one out. I think you might be a little bit surprised. So Pan Am's been a hit around this house. Played it a lot, 2-player. Played it with more. I think it works with a lot of good numbers. So this is one I can easily recommend. Number 4 should put a smile on your face. It's called Kung Fu Panda. Don't we all love Jack Black as that panda? Sure, I'm sure he irritates some people, but these are really fantastic movies. In some way, somehow, we got a board game based on it this year. I don't think there was a movie released. And it was released kind of out of the blue to me. But it's something I'd kind of seen in the background, didn't know a lot about. Kung Fu Panda, my kids will like it. Boy, was I surprised. This game is really fun. Now, it's got real time, and don't shut your computers off. The real time is okay. It works in this game. You're rolling the dice as fast as you can. It's definitely something you can play with your kids, probably 5, 6 or older. And you can tone down the time aspect if you want with younger children like that, or you can play older. I think this game also works as a fun game with older people. It really is a fun experience that I had going through it. If you like the Kung Fu Panda, I mean, he's not one of our favorite movies or one of our favorite characters, but he's so lovable and you want to be able to go through it. All the characters in the movie are in it. The miniatures are nice. I think the game mechanisms are unique enough that it really works for me. It reminds me of almost, if you play the game Vengeance, it reminds me of like a kid's version of that almost. And I think that it really, really works. How you go into the room and you're busting through, and I really like that aspect of it. Real-time games are not my thing. I don't like games that, I think there was a Steam Park game that I kind of liked that had that little aspect to it. I don't find a lot of games that I like with that, but Kung Fu Panda definitely brings it down. We painted ours all up. It's a fantastic looking game. Had a lot of fun. It brings the movies right there on your board game table. Your kids are going to go crazy for it, and you're going to find yourself having a lot of fun with this. Totally could see adults sneaking this out to the kids go to bed and putting this down and rolling those dice and having a really good time. Kung Fu Panda. And number 3 is a game that definitely could have been my number 1. Let's talk about this. Night of the Living Dead. Love the movie. Loved the original trilogy by Romero, and I even tolerated some of the 4th and 5th and 6th expansions, but I really liked the universe he brings in Night of the Living Dead. And boy, was this movie groundbreaking when it came out. And one of my favorite gaming systems is Zombicide. I don't get to play it as much as I like to. There's so much stuff with Zombicide. But the marriage of Night of the Living Dead and CMON's Zombicide was something that had me salivating and made me going brains. And I just love the aspect of it. And what this game brings is a different experience. You're going to have the Romero side of it, and you're going to have the the Zombicide side of it. So you'll be going around in the Romero mode, and you're not very strong, you're weaker, and then you're going to the Zombicide mode, and you are ready to kick butt. But when your relative shows up, oh, they're coming to get you, Barbara. What's going to happen is you're going to go back to the Romero, the weaker side, because your heart is going to melt. Because your brother is there, your sister, your grandma, your mom, your dad, maybe even your child. And your heart is going to melt, and you're just not going to have that fire to fight back. Until you dispose of that relative, and you can get back to Zombicide, butt-kicking style. And it really works in this game, and I like that pace of going up and back and down and being prepared for those. And you're always in these tight quarters in this game. And once again, going back to Rambo, going back to Big Trouble in Little China, it really is going to be scenario-based in what you're doing. It's really going to be scenes from the movie that you're going to be playing. So probably has a little more replayability than Rambo, which is one of the couple of reasons why it rated it higher. It does have that playability a little bit higher than that, but also doesn't have the bloat of a lot of CMON games. So trust me, I love that bloat. Don't confuse me. I never complain about it. I want more, and I'm the guy that goes all in. But it was nice that this is a little self-contained. So if you did want a Zombicide system that's self-contained, here you go, one box and, 4 or 5 miniatures and an extra box, and that's it. You're done. You can get out of this at a relatively cheap price. This might be your entry level into Zombicide. I think it will be for a lot of people. Huge hit here. Had I got it earlier in the year and had more place for it, it may be higher up on this list, but for now, it'll be number 3. My number 2 is Harry Potter House Cup Challenge. Now, this game could easily have been number 1 for me. When I get to number 1, I'll explain why I put number 1 there, but for now, we're going to sit right here with Harry Potter House Cup Challenge. Now, Harry Potter's huge in my family. I live in Orlando. We can hit up Universal with our annual passes and see Harry Potter's universe, Hogwarts. My kids have rode all the rides. We've seen all the movies. While I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan, my family definitely is. It's an IP that they're drawn to. I can definitely get my kids to play a Harry Potter game, and this is no different. But this one takes it and scales it up a little bit for the adults. You have a light to medium weight Euro game of where you're trying to go through the school and get the points. 50 points for Gryffindor, right? And you're going through this as you have this really neat scoring system where you're putting these gems of your color into like these tubes, like you're building a potion, and you can just see your points gain up. And oh man, the aesthetic of that is amazing, and it really makes you feel like, oh, I can see that going up. Yeah, maybe you have to count them. If you just put the 2 tubes up, you can see who won for the most part. It's a really neat thing of how they added that to this game. I wish there was a little bit more artwork. I wish there was a little bit more from the movies coming in, because that's my entry point more than the books, and I wish that things weren't so blank, but the board does fill up as you go. And I think they did a very good job with this one. There's a lot of different mechanisms that are going on. You do kind of a worker placement type thing as you're going through. And I love these heavier Euros. And nobody's going to say, hey, calm down, this isn't that heavy. It is in the IP world, right? Because you don't tend to see mass market games or IP or licensed game going for that heaviness. So one of the heavier Euros I've seen on an IP game, and I loved it. It works. The universe works. It carves out a spot where you're in the schools with Harry Potter, and you're being the characters, and you're going through that school aspect of it. Voldemort's put to the side, and you're just concentrating on this and learning the spells and doing that sort of thing. And it really, really works here. And what I can highly recommend, if you like Euro games at all, this is a great one. If you like Harry Potter even more, you're in heaven here. Great Christmas present. My number 1 game of 2020, the number 1 game on the IP list, is Marvel United. This is a game, CMON, I like CMON. They're one of my favorite companies. If I buy a game, I always buy CMON games. I'm hardly ever disappointed. I know some people have some backlash about it, but it's not me. I take it with a grain of salt. When I saw Marvel, man, I said Harry Potter my family will play. This is a Marvel family. My family is into it. You have no idea how many times they've seen the Avenger movies. They watch them all the time, excited about the shows. They dive into the books my kids read. They just like Marvel quite a bit. So anytime there's a Marvel game, it's an easy sell for me. I can get it to the table. Now you add in a cooperative nature. Wow. You're really working. Now we don't have to be competitive. We can work together as a team. That really works. They have the simple mechanisms. You got the little cute chibi miniatures in this one. And the package really came around. And this became one of our most played games of the year. Some people say, hey, this game is better, that game is better. I can only tell you what worked for us and what we've been playing, and it's Marvel United. I was able to snag an early copy from Walmart, and I have all the expansions and all that kind of stuff coming from CMON, which hasn't been delivered yet. Super excited about to add in the Guardians of the Galaxy, which my family's going to love, and all Thor and all those guys. But for now, we are super happy with what we got in the core box. Lots of gameplay, 3 different bad guys, plenty of good guys to kind of mix up the variability and variety of this game, and it works. I'll tell you what, when I first saw the Kickstarter, I was in. CMON, in. Marvel, I'm in. Cooperative, I'm in. And sometimes I get these games, not necessarily just from them, but in general, I'm like, eh. But this is one that I was super excited about. The gameplay, I wasn't sure about what was going to happen. But boy, when I got it down on the table and play with my family, I was in heaven. This is a game I can bring to the table anytime. It's all painted up. It looks beautiful, and one I can recommend. So that's my top 10 games of 2020 with an IP.